Hello, I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
And I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. The following is a dramatic reading of a letter from the Federal Credit Union Act to you. Dearest Credit Union child, I hope this letter finds you well. I can't believe I'm already 90 years old. I remember when Papa Roosevelt brought me into this world, and the next thing I remember is watching episodes of The Love Boat on TV. I do think Doc and Julie should have gotten together. Anyway, that's about all I can remember, and since I'm not expecting to get anything from you for my birthday, I went ahead and put a crisp $2 bill in this letter for you. Don't spend it all at the Nickelodeon. Now, if you could do Grandpa Federal Credit Union Act a favor, ask Congress to make a few little adjustments to me. It should help these old bones. That is, only if Congress has its priorities in place of what's best for everyone and it's not some embarrassing shit show. Okay, well, I guess happy birthday to me and welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up on the pod, we'll be taking a trip to America's heartland, to a state where, according to its brand new slogan, visitors and residents have the, quote, freedom to flourish. Iowa. We'll be talking to Matthew DeBisschop and Alvaro Macias. They are on the leadership team at Ascentra Federal Credit Union, and they're going to be talking about their state-level advocacy efforts, in particular, their work on the updated Iowa Credit Union Act, which was signed into law by Iowa's governor earlier this year. Stay tuned for that. First up, let's please take a break from this week and check in with Natasha. Hey, Ed.
I am.
How is your week or day?
It's okay. It's been just busy. I don't know. I just feel like, not even just with work, but with
Yeah.
things that have to get done, like household
Yeah.
stuff, for health
Laundry has felt like a
insurance and
chore.
right, yeah, lots of chores. Let's just say that. It's very chore heavy.
Yeah, I guess it's the summer months. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's just felt like, taking the trash out again. God.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's kind
What
of
about you? Hopefully you're doing better than your rendition of the Federal Credit Union Act. Sounded like
Oh,
a pile of
yes.
bones about to
I'm
become
spry compared
dust.
to that thing.
Love
I'm
that.
doing
That was
fine.
funny.
So we record from home, right? So
Yeah,
I record in a closet, legit surrounded by pillows. I am so hot in here when we do these recordings. There's
oh
no
my
vent.
gosh.
So I'm just always like sweating like crazy. But other than that, I'm doing fine. I'm drinking plenty of water.
Good for you.
What did you watch this past week? Anything?
Yeah, there is one other new show that I hadn't mentioned yet.
Okay.
It came up on Netflix. I believe it might be new to Netflix, but it was a Showtime show
Hmm.
called Your Honor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, starring Bryan Cranston, and I love
Uh-huh.
Bryan Cranston. I mean, I'm huge Breaking Bad fan. That was just I would say this
Yeah.
is one of the top shows of all time. So,
Hmm.
I mean, nothing can compare to that, but yeah, it's a legal sort of show, very suspenseful.
Hmm.
The idea is that Bryan Cranston's he's a judge,
Hmm.
and then his son ends up hitting a guy who's on a motorcycle,
Right.
does a hit and run, basically,
Hmm.
and so the whole show is about them trying to cover that up, but yeah, it's very
I
good. Have
watched the
you
first episode of it, and it
Oh, yeah?
stressed me out so
Oh,
much.
really?
Yes.
Oh.
I was like, I can't keep watching this, but I love the show. It was really good.
Oh,
God,
wow,
it was
yeah.
stressful.
Yeah, well, maybe you were just in the mood for a lighter watch or
Maybe.
something. Yeah.
Well, it takes place in New Orleans, right?
It does, yeah, that's kinda neat too.
It
It's
is.
kind of fun, yeah, because there's so few shows that are like, it's in the South, and
Mhm.
you see all that culture there too. So, yeah, that
Yeah,
was cool because I love New Orleans, and
I do
spent some
too.
time there.
Really, honestly, of all the cities in the country, I think it has the best food I've ever had in any city.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's so good.
What was your favorite dish there? Well
Honestly, they had a cool take on a shrimp po' boy.
Mhm.
And I think honestly it was the fresh bread that they used from this German bakery, and it was just so, so good.
Sure, yeah. Well, and those beignets, that's what I
Beignets
remember
are
the
good.
most.
Sure.
What about you? Did you watch anything new
I
this past week?
did. I'm trying to revisit a bunch of stuff that I just ignored for the past decade, kind of. I finally watched Parasite, that won Best Picture a few
Oh.
years ago.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
It was good. It was shot brilliantly,
Sure.
but I don't think I dug it as much because I think, 1, I probably knew too much,
Oh,
and it
right.
was a little overhyped.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
again, very well done. The actors were great. Again, it was beautifully shot. So
Absolutely, yeah.
I did enjoy it, but just not quite as much maybe as if I would have watched it in 2019 when it came out. But it was
Right.
good.
Okay, that's fair, that's fair. I did watch it, I believe it was, yeah, either not 2019 or just sometime right before the pandemic.
Mhm.
I watched it at home. I thought it was great. I mean, I thought it was just so just suspenseful and just kind of a crazy
We could have a
story.
full conversation about the ending because I have a theory the ending wasn't real. Now, listeners, if you know the ending, email me about it because I don't think the ending was real.
Okay, yeah, I actually may have to rewatch it
Okay.
because I'm kind of forgetting a few things, but it was very good. Again, no spoilers here,
No
but the
spoilers.
ending, everything kind of leading up to the whole climax and the
Mhm.
ending was like, wow, like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, okay. All right, well, good, glad you got to finally see that.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into our interview with
Mhm.
Matthew and Alvaro from Ascentra Credit Union. Fun fact, I actually know Alvaro. I met him 10 years ago. We were both and crashed the GAC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's someone that goes way back there.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool to see, what he's doing now. We learned during our interview that he's actually an elected official as well, in addition to his role at the credit union. So
Mhm.
he'll share a little bit about that. But aside from that, they both are going to give us a real inside look at what it's really like to work with lawmakers in the state of Iowa. I know they admit it's kind of an old school process,
Yeah.
which is interesting. They talk about what's next on their advocacy agenda coming up. And they also, like we always talk with our guests about some fun topics. So they have some really fun food tips for any visitors to Iowa.
Mhm.
And also, interestingly, there's a discussion about the potential magical powers of the Mississippi River.
That was fun. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We have all that coming up next.
Hey, listeners, we're a bunch of credit union data nerds here at CU Times, and if you're one of those or want to become one of those and be smarter about what's happening in the industry, check out our executive briefing for subscribers only. It's delivered right to your inbox because we don't publish it online. The executive briefing, or as we call it, EB, dissects one issue each month into a comprehensive package with graphics, editorial context, interviews, and more, all in one email for subscribers only. Want to subscribe? Go to cutimes.com/subscribe. That's cutimes.com/subscribe for the executive briefing.
Joining us in the virtual studio today are Matthew DeBisschop and Alvaro Macias. They are SVP of Human Resources and VP of Community Development, respectively, at Ascentra Federal Credit Union in Bettendorf, Iowa. Matthew and Alvaro, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you guys. So happy to have you. Okay, so first question here. Let's just get right into it. We saw the news that Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed House File 131 into law pretty recently, which I know that you two have been hard at work advocating for. So, first, what was your reaction to this news when it finally was signed into law and finalized here?
Well, we were very excited because, to be honest, it went to the 11th hour. We weren't sure it was going to pass. It was in the second funnel. It was on the last day that they could vote on it before everybody went home. And then when it passed, it delivered on the suspense and all the work that went into it. It was very exciting. It was our first on offense win in quite a while. So it felt great.
Nice. So, were you kind of gathered around waiting or for this news to come out, or was it like you were already home and you thought it wouldn't happen and then you were surprised? Like, where were you when you found out?
I was actually texting the senators, asking them to vote for it and being a little heavy
Oh,
handed.
nice.
But then one of the senators
Mm.
texted me the voting board that had just all of them voting yes and one person voting no.
Mhm.
And that's probably one of my most favorite texts ever because it was in the Senate chamber. And then once it passed there, I knew the governor was going to sign it. There wasn't anything that said that she wasn't going to.
Awesome.
Can you guys explain to our listeners what this bill is and why it is so important for Iowa credit unions?
It basically does three main things. Okay. And, it had about 6 or 7 things in it originally, but after it goes through the sausage of the political arena, it ended up being 3 main things, and it was 3 very important things. It reduced the number of required board meetings from 12 to 6, and it allowed us to compensate our board members up to $8,000 a year for a credit union Ascentra size. And then lastly, it allowed us to address members and expel members if they have fraudulent behavior that's excessive or if they're harassing staff. And I guess I'll go into why those things are important here for 30 seconds.
Yeah, please.
Our original documents with the state, our founding documents, are 100 years old and they haven't been updated since 1925 or something. So a lot has changed in 100 years. That was all just cash and filling out forms and getting cash and depositing cash. And finance could not be any more different now. We need to make sure that credit unions are staying relevant for the financial needs of Iowans, and we're adapting to the rate of change. So as far as those 3 main items, credit unions might choose to go from 12 meetings to 6, but that's not to say that there's still not going to be governance meeting every other month, a credit meeting every other month, a personnel meeting, a lending meeting. There's all these subcommittee meetings where the work is getting done and then recommended to the larger board to vote on. So there's still going to be more meetings than there ever were, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Additionally, credit unions, we're consolidating a little bit here. We're getting bigger. And as a result, we're going to need more strategic partners on the board level that have the skills that can help us guide our organizations into the future. And if those people are going to take time away from their families, they're going to want to be compensated a little bit for their time. And, $8,000 is the maximum. That'll help recruit those strategic partners for our boards.
And that is huge, because if you have legislation still in place that hasn't been updated since the time that we were still mainly riding horses, it's time to update that stuff, dudes. So this is great.
You're exactly correct.
Okay. And Alvaro, did you want to add something to that as well, or?
Yeah, I'm just happy to see that our elected officials actually got something done for us, because in the past we've seen the big banks come into the state and we're playing defense. But this is really going to have a lasting effect. As Matt said, we really need to be in the forefront if we're trying to be innovative and if we're trying to really connect with those that know business very well, know innovation, know how to basically be creative. That's how we're going to stay competitive. So kudos to all the elected officials, but also all the employees, our board members, the credit union members who wrote letters, emailed, people who wrote op-eds for our local newspapers. This shows that all those efforts can make a difference. And I'm just happy that our elected officials really made this happen.
Nice, awesome. So I understand that, obviously you hold full-time roles at your credit union in addition to doing this advocacy work. And I believe your advocacy work takes place through a program at your credit union called the Champions Program. Is that correct?
Yeah, so up until recently, like about 10 years ago, we knew we needed to start having these conversations because banks were always working with legislators to try to tax us more. So we knew we needed to get something going. In 2017, the Champions program was started. That's through the Iowa Credit Union League. And the goal of it was to empower credit union employees to have a greater impact through advocacy. So there's multiple parts to it. But to give it a general overview, there's meetings every month. The meeting today for it is actually after this meeting. This podcast that we're shooting here, it'll take about an hour. And it provides the league a point of contact at every credit union to be strategic, where a legislator might be very pro-credit union or very anti-credit union or somewhere in the middle, depending on what the legislation is that we're working on. It also allows a point of contact at every credit union that has a champion to get people involved, encourage them to go to town halls, write letters, email, talk about issues with legislators that they live in the district of. Legislators want to talk to their constituents. They don't want to talk to lobbyists. They're going to listen to people that vote for them and live in the community where people vote for them. And I think it's one of the biggest differentiators between credit union advocacy and bank lobbying. They're 2 very different things. There's like somewhere between 30 to 50 of us at any given time. Some people kind of come into the group, some people come out at different credit unions throughout the state. These are some of the most passionate people about advocacy. They're all from all different backgrounds. What they have in common is they believe that credit unions are about people first before they're about dollars, and they're there to help the underserved and advocate for the needs of the underserved. I'm lucky to call them my peers. It's been a great experience.
Nice.
Can we talk about, the work that was done before the updated Credit Union Act was signed? You were talking about texting lawmakers the night of. So let's back up a little bit and talk about what the work looked like behind the scenes to get the legislation there. And when did you start working on it?
Well, I guess for this, it was back in 2022, but it came together like quickly back in 2022 at the end of it, right?
Hmm.
So the legislative session starts in January. It was like somewhere late in the fourth quarter. And the reason was you really need to have a legislator on your side that's willing to sponsor the bill on the floor
Hmm.
that can corral other people to vote for it in the legislature. So we are very fortunate to have that in Representative Gary Moore, and that is the district that Ascentra is headquartered in. We have a great relationship with him. And so it was an opportunity to really go after something big like our founding documents, updating the bill. So, we break it down. Once you have that person that's willing to sponsor a bill, you break it up into two groups, what you do before the legislative session and while the legislative session is happening. So once we knew that we had Gary willing to sponsor the bill, then we're going to set up meetings with other legislators, tell them what our priorities are, maybe give them a campaign contribution, ask them what they're working on. Is there anything we can help and support with? And this is happening all around the state with 20 to 40 different credit unions, depending if they can get a hold of their legislator and invite them in for a meeting. And we have staff handwrite the letters, send them into a central location here at the credit union, in this instance, about the credit union update bill and why it's important. And then we strategically mail out those letters the first 3 or 4 weeks with a couple days in between. So the legislators are getting a couple letters every day from Ascentra, and that's happening across the state. So it's a nice consistent message. It's a steady message. And that's what's happening at the beginning of the legislative session. As you get into the legislative session, maybe in like that February, March, and April timeframe, we are having staff giving an opportunity for staff to hike the hill and go to the state capitol and talk with their legislator. The legislators really appreciate that because they're talking to lobbyists a lot of the time. They don't get a lot of visitors from a 3-hour car ride away, people that live in their district. They take it very seriously. And then we also have like a big legislative reception a couple times a year during that legislative session, just so it's not just talking all business. You're having a good time. You're getting to know each other as people a little bit and building relationships.
Okay. Now, so Matthew, throughout this process, since going from 2022 up until this concluded, what were some of the roadblocks or challenges that you encountered? What was the hardest part of doing this advocacy work specifically for this Iowa Credit Union Act update?
I really enjoy public policy and administration and learning about how communities and states and governments choose to organize. And where we have exclusively, as credit unions, played defense for the last 6 or 7 years, this was the first time we were being proactive on something. And I got to learn a whole different side of the legislative process. And something I learned was there is misdirection a little bit built into it, and legislators play things close to the vest as you go through the process. So trying to figure out what exactly is happening, it's sometimes either easier in hindsight than it is in real time. Legislators are always being honest, but sometimes they always got to go back and be respectful of whatever their caucus is dealing with. And the example I can give you is when our bill passed the House, if you talk to someone in the House of Representatives about it, what's going to happen in the Senate, they're going to say, you need to talk to someone in the Senate. I supported it. So then you go to the Senate and you're talking to your senator. You're like, hey, our bill's in the Senate. Or will you vote for it? Do you have any questions on it? And they'll say, oh, yeah, that's in the Commerce Committee. You need to talk to someone in the Commerce Committee. So then you go to the Commerce Committee and you say, hey, our bill's in the Commerce Committee. If you have any questions on it or anything like that. And then a member of the Commerce Committee will say, well, it's up to the committee chair. So you should talk to the committee chair. And then, so you talk to the committee chair. And then the committee chair will say, you know what, I really need to sit down with the majority leader because I need to know what bills he will call to a vote. And if this isn't one that he'll call to a vote, I need to make sure I'm bringing him into the loop. So you're asking a lot of questions, you're pressing, but you don't want to press too much. And all that stuff takes a lot of time. And all you can do is really talk about it. It's not like it's all workflowed in some way really smooth. You need to talk to them when you have time. So that was probably most difficult in that the people that are getting involved, you don't want them to get frustrated with the process because they feel like they're not getting the information that they want. You just got to be happy with the information that you're getting and keep moving forward.
Thank God there are people like the two of you because I would have given up after having to go to the second person. Ugh, I'm going home.
I was gonna say, it sounds like trying to chase down a health insurance
Oh
claim
my.
or something, you know, "Oh, no, that's them. Let me forward you to them. Let me forward you."
You know,
So,
I need to be honest. They're always pleasant. It's just they can only tell you what they can tell you, and I think you need to respect that because they're dealing with other issues too. Alvaro knows more about it than I do because he himself is an elected official. But that's been my experience on my side.
So let's bring him in here. So much of the advocacy and lobbying work involves persuading people to do things. So, have either of you learned any good persuasion strategies or even just honed that as you've been out there talking to lawmakers? It sounds like you have.
I can take this one. So, really, it's all about building relationships.
Hmm.
These are individuals just like you and me, and they really want to do something good in their community and the state. And while they might differ in the way they go about it, they really do have some good intentions. But really, just going to them before you're asking them for something is important. Just getting to know them, being out there in the community is big for us here at Ascentra. And I've really made it a point to be around and basically learn about the local legislative process because I frankly care about this area. We're on the eastern part of the state, and most of the economic output happens in the eastern part of the state. So you do have a lot of business folk in the area and a lot of people who have influence in politics. And I've been fortunate enough that I've had opportunities to be in the room with some of those elected officials and some of the top decision makers around here. So really building those relationships. And then when I get to see them at the Capitol or at local legislative events. We know each other. They know who I am to the point where I'll share an example. I'm very involved with our local Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And I was asked to be part of a legislative panel of local officials and state officials. Well, when it all came down to it with everybody's calendar, it was just me as a city council member from Moline, Illinois. We're a bi state region. And four representatives, one state senator from Iowa, and two other representatives. And so here I am with the other representatives on this panel, and I'm like, wow, these folks really have a lot more to talk about. But I looked at them and I knew them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to hold my own and I am going to basically have this panel and do my best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be intimidated by the scale of work that they're doing. And when it came down to it, I earned their respect. I looked at the work that they were doing and is not too far from the stuff we're doing at the city level.
Hmm.
And next time we see each other, they know who I am. It's building that credibility with them. This guy works at a credit union. He cares about the community. And regardless of where you stand on some other social issues, it's somebody who I'm going to listen to. So that's how I really built it. And I've always lent myself to the advocacy efforts here in Iowa because I've worked here most of my professional life.
Right.
And Matt's really taken it to a whole different level. And also, the league with the Champions program has allowed us to include more of our staff so they can be involved.
Alvaro, I want to ask you something very quickly. You were a crasher, yeah,
Yes,
in 2014?
correct.
yes.
So I love asking people this because listening to what you're talking about, and can you think of what you in 2014 would think about today you? Like, oh my God, I'm doing all this stuff that I would have been terrified to do, 10 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
I would say, you go, boy, keep doing it. Yeah, I would cheer myself on because that was a great opportunity for me. And, it didn't just happen by chance. I put some work into being a crasher in the state conference here in Iowa,
Hmm.
and that led to another conference, and that led to GAC.
Yeah.
And while I always have been interested in politics and advocacy work, it wasn't until DC when I was part of the GAC group. There was 50 plus young professionals from all over the country that got together. That's where Natasha and I met.
Yeah.
It wasn't until there that it really put it into a picture of, wow, we can actually make an impact in our communities, in our state, and also for the movement in general. And this is a piece that we need to figure out and we need to get good at because we have big banks
Mm,
with lots of money and lots of clout that we're up against. So we really need to get the boots on the ground active and really educate more of our staff, more of our stakeholders,
mm,
and more of our community of why credit unions are important and why the work we're doing doesn't just benefit us as employees. It benefits them. It benefits the municipalities, the counties,
mm,
the states where we're at. So yeah, that really opened up my eyes on how to be more effective. And in particular, I remember the member activation plan, the MAP program that was discussed at GAC. And I made it a point to come back and basically create a web page on our website that had information of why it's important to advocate for credit unions. And then we were more involved in sharing some of that information.
Cool.
And that's about the same time that Matt came in, and there was great synergy, and advocacy efforts really started taking off more and more here in Iowa. So I'm just glad I was involved 10 years ago with some tactics, and just seeing how more organized and formal and how many more people have been brought to this is just awesome to see.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, and also, Alvaro, I apologize. I didn't realize that you were also a city council member, an elected official. So I apologize for not including that in the introduction as one of your titles, but that is awesome as well. I did want to ask both of you, just going back, what it was that inspired you to get involved with credit union advocacy work in your state and the CU Champions program in particular. There's a lot of ways you can spend your time on sort of extracurricular community engagement things. Let's bring Matthew back in here again. Matthew, can you kind of tell us what it was that inspired you? Just looking back, where you're working in human resources, how did you kind of get your interest sparked on the advocacy side in the beginning?
I'm just so lucky to work for credit unions because I got out of college in 2008 and the financial recession was happening, the Great Recession, and no one was hiring. And I could be selling aluminum siding right now. But I took a job as a teller in 2008, and there has been all the opportunities in the world to better myself and be the best version of myself. And it has made me passionate about credit unions and the work they do in the communities. So in 2017, when Dale Owen, the then CEO of Ascentra, asked me to join a new champions program that the league was putting together, I obviously said yes. He passed away in 2020. So while I love advocating, it's a great way to pay tribute to the legacy of one of my most influential mentors that taught me this value that credit unions bring to the world. Also, his predecessor, Linda Andre, our current CEO, supports the heck out of advocacy. So I feel like I can kind of run wild with it. And it's been wonderful. Grateful to be a part of it. It gives me great joy.
Yeah, Alvaro, was there anything you wanted to add to that as well? I know you talked quite a little bit about your background and involvement in the state, but how did you get into the Champions program specifically?
Really, with the current champions program, I'm kind of more of like a hype man for Matt here. I'm behind him. So, but I've been involved with tactics in the past and before the program was created. So I just basically am here to support Matt, but also I do have one of my employees, Allie, who is also cares about advocacy efforts and she's drank the Kool-Aid, the credit union Kool-Aid, and she's very involved, and she was very involved with the advocacy efforts this year, helping Matt out and helping our staff to coordinate visits and all that stuff. So again, Matt's leading the efforts here, and I'm just in the background saying, yeah, you do it, Matt.
That cheerleader.
Hype
role.
man. I
Yeah.
want to ask both of you kind of the difference between your vision and then the reality of being involved in advocacy efforts. Was there a difference between what you thought this work was going to be and what it actually was?
I tried to keep a real open mind about it because I didn't know what to expect. And, legislators want the facts and they want interactions to be as pleasant as possible. So that was always shared with me from the beginning. Just be honest, be authentic, be yourself. Don't take it personal. And it's very different than what I expected because I didn't know what to expect. It's a very old school process. The process of politics, that hasn't really changed. You still go put in little notes for senators to get them to come out of the chamber. It's very old school. So that has been very interesting. Also, just the last thing I'll say about it is some legislators just love credit unions. And then you have some credit union deserts where in the state of Iowa, small agricultural communities that they don't have enough people where a credit union exists there. And like legislators from those areas, that's agricultural banking. And some of those legislators, they hate credit unions without even knowing about them or having ever talked to one. Their banker tells them that they're awful, so they just listen to it. That has been interesting.
Yikes. Alvaro, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, it's just the realization that this never ends. And
Okay.
it's very much needed. We have to stay constantly engaged with our elected officials. We constantly have to pay visits, build those relationships, because otherwise the banks will. And again, they have a lot of money and they know how to play this game in a whole different level than we do. So we just need to get better and continue to improve. But I got to give kudos to our advocacy folks in Des Moines for our advocacy arm. They really do a good job at educating us, managing the expectations when you go and advocate. That's something that is not really taught to us. So, as professionals that care and want to make a difference, they do a really good job. And everybody in the credit union probably should go through some sort of advocacy training. It should be mandatory for all employees just so they realize what it really is. Like Matt said, it is kind of old school, but really, I think more of us need to learn just the basics, the fundamentals.
Totally agree.
Right. And kind of to follow up on that, you talk about all the power that banks have out there. And Alvaro, you talk about how it should be mandatory. So obviously, it sounds like more employees should be getting involved. How do you think it is right now in Iowa? Do you think there are enough people in the credit union movement out there advocating? Do you think we need more? And if we don't have enough, what would you say to credit union leaders outside of your own credit union about how they can get their employees involved?
I was going to say that getting this bill passed was our first time on offense since the Champions program started and really pointed advocacy efforts like that.
Mhm.
That is because it keeps growing and it is more people involved than ever. But having said that, there are not enough people involved because the bank lobbyists are at the state capitol every single day. Credit unions are only 15% of the deposits roughly in the state of Iowa. 85% is banks. We have to show up in numbers so they know that our votes will show up in numbers so we can impact their decision making, because the bank's money will trump us otherwise.
I agree. There's not enough, but as credit unions here in Iowa, we own that. We have been doing the Champions program. And I would even say beyond that, even the Crasher program, the innovation groups,
Mm.
those kind of groups get younger professionals, future talent in the room with executives from other credit unions. They get them in the room to be developed, to learn from our speakers, from workshops, from seminars. So we do have a learning development arm and leadership development that is helping with that. And it's also helping to build a bench of the next young professionals who can keep doing this work. I mentioned the crash program. It's been a decade since I first crashed DC. So looking around the state and in our credit unions, who is the next person to bring up? Who else can we push to be doing this work later on after we retire? So really younger people nowadays, they do want to work in places that align with their beliefs. And I think the credit union movement, if we convey to them that we're doing something good for people, for their financing, addressing people's financial pains, if we can connect to the younger folks and anybody in general on that level, I think we'll be doing all right. But we just really need to keep doing it more and more and more because we are up against a lot of influence from the large banks.
Now that this work is done in updating the Iowa Credit Union Act, what is next for you on the advocacy front?
Great question. There were two things left out of the bill that we really wanted in the bill, and those were the ability to invest in financial technology companies.
Mm.
You hear about all these small little financial technology companies. Credit unions are going to need that same technology to stay relevant with the next generation and keep serving the underserved. So we're going to keep working on that. Another thing I left out of the bill was getting letters of credit to secure municipal deposits.
Hmm.
There are some communities that would like to deposit their funds with credit unions, and there's a process for that. And right now, credit unions are kind of handicapped in their ability to do that, and we should be able to do it, especially with some of these smaller communities that banks no longer have branches in.
Yeah, something similar passed down in Florida.
Wonderful. I would love for you to share that with me, because I think
Of course.
that's something we're working on, because there are these banking deserts that a bank isn't there, but we are, a credit union is, and we could be their depositor. So that's something we're working on. And then increase access to childcare. It's becoming a bigger and bigger problem in Iowa. It's impacting our members a lot, but it's also impacting the ability of our employees to find childcare so they can stay employed with us or take promotions. Not every job is remote capable. It's retail financing. So sometimes people need to be at the office 35 to 40 hours a week, and they need people to take care of their children. So those are some of the priorities that I know will be on the docket. Our state advocacy committee will be prioritizing those. They do a great job over the summer, and we'll know probably in September or so.
Well, here at CU Times, we will be paying attention to what you guys do next.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It sounds like you're doing some really great work out there, but let's go ahead and change subjects. We're going to move on to the fun part of our interview. It is all about you two. So, first, Matthew. So, obviously, you currently live in Iowa. Were you also born and raised in Iowa? Is that where you're from originally?
I was born and raised across the river. Like right now, I am literally like 200 meters away from the Mississippi. I was raised in Moline on the other side. So, same area.
Okay, close enough. All right. But given that you have lived in Iowa for a majority of your life, what would you say is your favorite iconic Iowa food item?
That would have to be the loose meat sandwich. It is a wonderful, simple variation on the hamburger
Okay.
where it's ground beef and then, anything else you would put on a hamburger, but you're getting so much more surface area in the beef because it's all ground up. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Awesome. Alvaro, same question to you. Were you born and raised in Iowa?
No, I was born in Mexico City.
Okay.
Came to Moline, Illinois when I was 8 years old. Moved around a bit, but I live in Moline still now.
Okay. So let's forget Iowa for a second. What's cool about Moline?
Whoa, Moline.
If you need 5 minutes to think about it, I'll give you that.
Well, I
just
was
kidding.
thinking corn dogs because we're going to talk about food. But actually, Moline and the Quad Cities, we're part of a network of cities that's a bi-state region. I'll stay on the topic of food. We
Please.
have Quad City style pizza here that is basically a large pie that's got one cut down the middle and then a number of others across. So it's rectangular pieces and the sausage is crumbled, very similar to the loose meat burger there, but it's delicious and it's not something you find anywhere else. Chicago's got a couple restaurants feature it, but that's about it. So that's unique to us. So that makes us wonderful. We also are home to John Deere. They're in Moline. Oh yeah, and the other cool thing about it is this is where the Mississippi River goes east to west. But yeah, just a great community, a lot of solid things, great food, great events in the summer. Yeah, I love the Quad Cities.
Fantastic thunderstorms blowing through probably right now. I don't know.
No, supposedly we're supposed to get some crazy weather later, but I feel like the river protects us. I don't know if it's a myth or science, but I really think we luck out because of the river. It's such a massive river that we
Interesting.
sometimes luck out.
Love it.
Very nice.
Very pagan of you, Alvaro. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna write that down. Alvaro worships river. Okay.
And corn. River and corn.
River and corn. Got
Yeah,
it.
very Iowa.
Heck yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's move on to this next question here. I'm just saying, we ask all of our guests this question. I'm excited to ask you guys this because I believe you are the first guests we've had that are my generation, the kind of elder millennial, I believe. All of our other guests seem to have been kind of Gen X or
My age. Yeah.
This is Michael's age.
Sorry.
So I'm excited to hear the answer. I think it'll be a little different maybe from what we've heard in the past. So Matthew, what was the first album you ever bought or remember like listening to regularly?
The first one that I listened to regularly was given to me from a neighbor, and it was the Metallica Black album.
Okay, all right. Nice.
You know what? I just saw a video of them, Matthew, members of Metallica, standing in front of the stage watching Judas Priest play live. And it was really a pretty cool video. They're kind of all air guitaring. It was really funny. I loved it. I'll try to send it to you.
I took my boomer dad and my boomer uncles to see Judas Priest a few months ago, and the lead singer, Rob Halford, is like 71, and he still screams exactly how he did in the late 70s. It is unbelievable to see a man that age scream metal. It was unbelievable.
Love it.
Oh, that's so fun. Alvaro, same question to you. What was the first album you ever bought or really remember listening to a lot?
Well, I used to borrow the cassette tapes from my older brothers.
Okay.
And the one I used to play on repeat was the Prince Batman soundtrack.
Oh, no.
For the motion picture.
Yeah.
It's a solid album.
It's a good album. Oh, that's funny.
But I remember also taking the Metallica stuff, The Cure, and my dad had a Santana Milagro, the cassette tape. And so a very eclectic mix of music.
What was your favorite track on that Batman album? Do you remember?
I think Party Man.
Yeah, there you go. Good one. I like it.
Love the cassette tapes. That was definitely our generation, right? Waiting for the
Yes.
radio to play the song you like and pressing record, and that was good times. All right, another question we like to ask all of our guests. Matthew, what was the last movie you watched?
So I got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and we went to the movie theater a few weeks ago and watched the new Godzilla movie. And that was good and all, but then we got home and I saw that there was a new Godzilla movie on Netflix called Godzilla Minus One. And I watched that a few days ago with my kids. And I would recommend this. It's very different than what's in the movie theater right now. It just came out a few months ago, but it pays homage to the traditional Godzilla movies. It's in Japanese for the Japanese audience, dubbed in English. It's set in 1947 Japan, and the premise is that Japan was so devastated by World War II that when Godzilla attacks, they're already down by one. So Godzilla minus one, and the main character is a shamed kamikaze pilot. It is heavy. I recommend it.
That is on my watch list actually right now.
Yeah, and I might have to add it because I'm not usually don't go for those kinds of movies, but I saw a friend of mine said, "Oh, this is the best movie I've watched in years." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Natasha, they said that about Godzilla minus one.
Someone said that.
It
Yeah.
was it was awesome. Like it's so different than the one that's in the movie theaters now. Like that one's
Yeah.
like kitschy and it's just action for the sake of it. This had a really deeper story.
Nice.
Right.
Alvaro, same question to you. What's the last thing you watched?
It was the War for the Planet of the Apes,
Oh,
the new movie.
yeah.
Either it came out or it's coming out, so I was preparing for it to figure out what's going on with the series.
What did you think?
Solid, a great movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been years since I've watched one of those, and I watched it by myself. Nobody in my family wanted to watch it with me.
Really? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, way to plant your flag on that one. Okay.
I started it. I had to finish
You
it.
had to finish it. Very cool.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, Matthew and Alvaro, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really informative in regard to the advocacy work you do. Keep it up. We really appreciate it. Fun getting to know you a little better as well. And yeah, just thank you so much. We really had a good time.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much for highlighting all this hard work and just very grateful for Iowa credit unions and then the work that you do. So thank you, thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been wonderful to be on the show with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great to have you.
Thanks, guys.
And for our listeners, please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever. You know how this works. And if you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. And for those of you with questions or comments, feel free to email me over at nchillingarian@cutimes.com, or you can always email Michael at mogden@cutimes.com.
Also, this month, exclusively in our executive briefing for subscribers only, we've broken down the most recent mortgage market data and what the good and bad signs are for credit unions. You can subscribe to our executive briefing at cutimes.com/subscribe. A new topic each month. Check it out, cutimes.com/subscribe. Thank you so much to our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts of CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.